Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is MG Govia. I'm the Education and Outreach Liaison here at Oki A11. Today's presentation is going to be over emergency locate requests. This is based on some feedback that we've received over the last couple months. There's been some law changes that went into effect back in November, and I just wanted some clarification. So I try to uh, give our audience, our excavators, our member companies, the information they need. So anytime you have a topic that you need some clarification on, feel free to reach out to us at education@oka11.org and let us know so we can craft content to help you out. If today is your first time joining us on our webinar, the toolbar you see is pretty simple. There's an orange arrow or orange button with a white arrow in it that opens and collapses your toolbar. If it disappears on you, just click that orange bar. It'll come right back up. There's also the questions feature. I am flying solo on this webinar, so ask your questions. Any clarification that you need, feel free to throw it my way. And towards the end of the webinar, we will go into detail on those questions. Because we have such a focused topic today, the entire webinar probably will last less than 30 minutes. So hope you enjoy this information. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. So a little bit of background. OK11, if you've never jumped on one of these, we just want to remind you that our mission is to provide quality underground damage prevention services, and our value statement is delivering excellence through honesty, integrity, and having a highly engaged workforce and a fun and supportive workplace. And the whole reason that we exist is because of the Oklahoma Underground Facilities Damage Prevention Act. And pretty much what that says is that there's two parts. Our member companies, those are those operators of underground facilities, they're going to participate with this. They're going to let us know where their assets are registered geographically and what personnel to contact when digging is going to take place near those assets. And then for that to work, anybody who has a shovel needs to call us and let us know before that shovel is being used, right? So they're going to call us and give us at least no less than 48 hours notice, excluding the data notification, weekends, and holidays, to let us know that excavation is going to take place. And then the process is pretty straightforward. They're going to contact us. They're going to use our website or go on, or make that phone call. They're going to do that with plenty of time. We're going to create a locate request, and that's going to go out to the member companies, right? So the locate request is going to be generated from the information provided from the excavator to our damage prevention agent, and they're going to map out that dig site that's described, and we're going to then be able to notify what member companies are in that area. Those notifications are then sent out to the member companies that are in that area. There's an average of 6 members that are notified per ticket, and they're required to respond to that request prior to the work to begin date and time. They're going to go out and they're going to mark the approximate location of those underground facilities. They're going to be using paint, flags, or stakes using the APWA uniform color code. And then they're required to provide mandatory positive response. That's a status of that locate response, giving the excavator knowledge that they've been out there and it marked, that they've had any access issues, that it's all clear. Any information that is sent back to the excavator is through our positive response portal. And then after the excavator is confirmed, positive response has been received, then they're going to dig test holes and identify and properly verify that the facilities are there where they were marked, and then expose, protect, and support those underground facilities. Quick couple things to remember. Private lines are not marked through this service. They can be marked through member companies who have the ability or time to go above and beyond what they're required to, but it's not promised or guaranteed that private lines would be marked. Examples of private lines, the obvious ones would be like sprinkler systems, propane lines, things that no utility company owns, right? The ones that aren't so obvious would be where the utility company transfers ownership of that line or maintenance of that line to the property owner. Quick heads up, if you're calling the utility company to repair it, it's theirs. If you're calling a plumber or an electrician to repair it, then it's probably yours, right? So it's where that is turned over to the property. Usually it's right after the meter for an additional runs or anything like that. So that's an easy way to remember. Also, OKA 811 is not a locating company. We're not the manpower that goes out and locates or marks underground facilities. Each utility company is responsible for doing so. They may use their own employees in-house, or they may hire a third party, such as USIC or Gridhawk or United or some others that are out there to mark on their behalf. But OK1, we are just a communication hub to make this process work. We give out that information that the excavator has given us out to the member companies. Member companies then handle the locatings and then provides positive response back to the excavator through that hub, right? And to put in a ticket, there's two ways. Web tickets is the over 70% of all locate requests are put in through our website. The reason being is just easier. It's available 24/7 all year round, right? You can view and update tickets with your company within the last 30 days, which is really cool. If me and a coworker work for a plumbing company and they need to turn the point of contact over to me for some reason because they're going on vacation or something like that, I can go in, find that ticket number, update that information to my information because it's within our company's profile. And then, of course, being online, mapping is available for us to pinpoint that dig site. And the best thing, no hold times. It's actually been talked about, like, usually if hold times get kind of high, like 3 to 5 minutes, a lot of our seasoned people who uses our web ticket, they can put in 2 to 3 tickets just during hold time. So highly recommend using web tickets. It gets things knocked out quite quickly for you. If you do need to call us, you can. Dialing 811 in any state will get you to their one call center. Our office hours are Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. After business hours, only emergency locate requests will be accepted. So reasons that you must call 811 is for emergency requests, second and third notices, demolition notice, damage report tickets, or wildland fire notifications. We're not going to dive that much into those tickets today. There's plenty of stuff on our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about each one of those. Today, we're going to focus on, today I'm going to be focusing on second notices and emergency tickets and updates a little bit. So let's talk about those ticket types real quick. As big umbrellas, there's compliant locate requests. A compliant locate request means that you're complying with the law, that you've given the proper amount of time or proper amount of notice before digging is going to take place. And so by doing so, you're complying with the law. Member companies have plenty of time to respond to it. A non-compliant ticket is a short notice ticket when there is not an endangerment to life, health, or property. Hopefully, everybody who's taking the time to come on to this webinar today would not do a non-compliant ticket. A non-compliant ticket is saying that you're unable to comply with the law and you're requesting a short notice locate request that may or may not happen in time because the member companies have that 48 hours, right? An emergency locate request is what we're going to dive into quite a bit today. And very short definition before I dive into it. It's just there's a digging that has to take place now or soon or less than 48 hours due to an endangerment to life, health, or property. And so we'll dive into that here in just a moment. And then damage report tickets. This is something that has become mandatory since November. It used to be optional. People could just call in and let us know. Now it is mandatory, especially if your company or yourself is the reason for that damage. So anytime damages occur, we should be notified as well as the facility operator as well. So I was trying to think of a way to illustrate and really dive into emergency locate requests. And unfortunately, this is one of those things that words are just going to have to suffice, right? Because when a call is made into our contact center, our damage prevention agent, when we're notified that it's an emergency, we're going to ask, how is it an endangerment to life, health, or property? Some is going to be very common sense, right? There's people without power, water's flooding the street, there's there's somebody without telecommunications, so they're they're unable to call 911. There's plenty of examples where it's pretty obvious that there's an endangerment to life, health, or property. So what we want to do is make sure that we're avoiding non-emergency emergency requests. A non-emergency emergency request is surely a non-compliant request, and it's usually done because of poor planning. It's an emergency because we forgot or we didn't plan ahead to do this water meter install for a new building, for a new addition that we're working in. This is an emergency because we didn't put in on our project management side the opportunity to make sure that we're giving 48 hours notice, right? So we want to avoid that, and we want to be able to justify that as an emergency. If you've been on one of my webinars before or heard me give this example, I started with the company 10 years ago. I was at the time a CSR, and I was taking phone calls, and I took a call from a gentleman who let me know that he had an emergency locate request. And I said, okay, what are we doing? And he informed me that he was going to be building a fence. And it took me a second, and I kind of thought it through, and I had to ask, I was like, how is this an endangerment to life, health, or property? And the gentleman informed me that he's a farmer and his cattle is getting out. And that's the reason it's emergency, because there was a break of a fence. So it was justifiable, and then we put in that emergency request. The reason that it's important to be justified is so that our member companies are responding to those that digging is truly taking place and there is truly an endangerment to life, health, or property. Something to keep in mind is that there's two things to look at when justification is looked at. One is the whether or not it's endangerment to life, health, or property. The other is time. How much notice can you give the member companies? I understand how the phone calls are going to go. You're going to receive, this request to go and dig immediately, and you're going to go call us, and you're going to be on the phone with us. You're going to go, yep, it's an emergency, it's an endangerment to life, health, or property, and we're going to say something along the lines of, how soon will you be digging? And the answer is going to come back as soon as possible, right? Well, as soon as possible isn't good enough to put on a ticket. We can't put that out there to our members. So we're going to ask for 4 hours because now we're negotiating. And then 4 hours may work, may say, no, we need it faster. We'll compromise on 2 hours, hopefully. And then sometimes, rarely, someone will ask for it to be even sooner than that, right? And all that is okay. But okay is not always best. What is best is giving as much time as possible for the member companies to respond to that emergency locate request. So in other words, if I'm calling an emergency locate request and I know that I do need to do this work in less than 48 hours, but I also know that I need to get this particular crew member or this particular piece of equipment or this part for repair or something that's going to delay my start time to 6 hours, to 10 hours, to tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., whatever the case may be, all I'm doing is giving those member companies, the ones who are truly trying to get to me because there is an emergency, as much time as possible. Because if I say 2 hours and then that member company gets out there in 2 hours and I'm nowhere to be found, yeah, they got there in time and they're going to locate the area, hopefully. But it is frustrating because they could have been focusing on others that digging is going to be more imminent, right? So we want to worry about both time and justification when putting in emergency requests. And here's the main reason why. When the law got updated in November, there's a lot of waste in the system. And what we call waste is tickets where work is not taking place or a fraudulent request. And so those two things we're going to kind of talk about just real quick. First is the no work taking place request. This is usually when multiple updates are made for a project that should have taken much less time. I did a training. I did a training with an electric. I did a training with an electric co-op not too long ago, and when I did, I learned that they did some work for some stuff where they were putting in. I apologize. What is making that sound? Okay, I apologize. I don't know what that sound was. So let me start over right where I left off. Um, I was doing a training for an electric co-op, and I talked about excessive and unreasonable updates. And when putting in, say, a run of electric poles um, or any work that you're putting in, if you say that the duration of that project is going to be like 10 days, then one locate request, which is the life of a locate request is 14 days from the date that you say the work's going to begin, you should be able to be complete. So if that project is updated 3, 4, 5 times, there's going to be questions on why is it still being updated. So that's something to keep in mind. So if I put in a ticket and I say it's going to be done in 10 days, and I get out there on day 10 of my 14-day ticket and I have to update it, and they can see work is taking place, that is reasonable, right? It's excusable. We understand what happened. If I put in a locate that says it's going to be 10 days and I'm on month 3 of doing it and my work is hit or miss and we're not showing any work within the last 14 days, those questions can come up. And the reason that's important to know that is because if tickets are excessive and unreasonable, then the operator who's running those locates can then invoice that excavator for those. And the same is true for non-emergency emergency requests, right? Earlier, I talked about the differences between justification and time. The time, that's going to be very subjective. That's going to be hard to explain. That I want you to hopefully do what's best and give as much time as possible to a member company just for the process to work well. But more importantly, I want to make sure that we're looking at the justification. If it is a new install, if it is new construction, if it is uh, um, a repair of something that's still working, right? Like a broken pole that is being supported and can be done in 2 days and doesn't have to be done in the next couple hours. Things like that. Those things can help clean up the waste that's in the system. And so if emergencies that are not true emergencies are discovered, that is a possibility for the member company to recoup costs for those locating um, fees. So something to keep in mind. To my knowledge, I haven't heard of any companies sending out invoices yet. The to recoup costs, it would be from the member company directly. So ABC Telecom would have to decide what is reasonable cost for their locating services when work isn't taking place, or if there was a non-emergency request, and then pass out that invoice to get paid back. That isn't going to be done through a third party like us or the Oklahoma Corporation Commission or anybody else. Right now, this law is so new. Hopefully, there's a lot of barking and not a lot of biting, if you will. Hopefully, we're all just working on the process, making sure that we're cleaning up the waste before it becomes a problem in the system. So before I get into some shameless plugs, let me see if anybody's asked any questions yet. If you do have any questions, please use that chat box. Let me know. If you have any examples of showing up to a site where you realize it was an emergency and it was an emergency called in, if you're on my member side or locator side. If you are an excavator and you've had some questions about is a second notice an emergency, stuff like that, I can go into detail about that as well. Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and pitch that question to myself about second notices just to keep going. Hopefully, someone will ask some questions here soon. But a second notice is when a locate has not been fulfilled within that 48 hours notice, right? So the work to begin date and time has come. You didn't receive the positive response through our portal. And if that's the case, you'll provide a courtesy notification back out to that member company and let them know that ABC, you haven't been out here yet. I'm on site. I'm ready to dig. It is not a reset. You do not have to wait another 48 hours plus the data notification, because you've already waited that time. It is a courtesy notification to get that information back out to the member companies. More importantly, on the excavator side, it's a CYA move and showing due diligence. So please take plenty of pictures of the area, show that they didn't respond, date and time, those pictures as well, so that you can have confirmation that you are trying to do everything you can to make sure that everybody positively responds before digging takes place, if you can do so. So although it's not an emergency, because there's not an endangerment to life or health or property, it is a second notice because you did already wait the required time. So, okay, this is a great question. Someone asked about emergency locate requests with plumbing. There's a lot of jobs where there's a sewer leak, and is that considered an emergency? This is one of those things where justification comes into play by the person doing work. So if that excavator, the plumber calls in and that sewer leak is manageable, in other words, they have a temporary fix on it or can do something really quick to it, then I then I would suggest trying to wait the amount of time to give everybody time to respond to it. If it is already going out everywhere, then it is an endangerment to property. It's also the environment, right? So we want to be able to make sure that if it is out of control, if large digging is going to take place, then of course make sure that you do request it as an emergency. I just ask that you ask for as much notice as possible to give the member companies plenty of time to come out there. And I realize it's a justification call, but the thing that we want to point out is it's a justification call for us when you're calling into us to talk to one of our damage prevention agents. But it's also going to be a judgment call when the member companies come out, right? If they go, hey, plumber, how is this emergency? Or the plumber explains, this is a sewer, it's going everywhere. Obviously, that will be easily justified. So I do not want this presentation or this information to um, to, to talk you out of calling emergency requests. I feel like emergencies should be common sense by the person calling it in. It's obvious that there's an endangerment to health, property, or life, right? If you can justify that, do not hesitate to call it in. We're looking at more fraudulent on, you know what, I should have done this meter install 2 days ago, but I didn't call it in. Those type of things are the ones where the justification is going to be hard to provide to the member companies that come out in that area. So I hope that answers. If you have more specific illustrations or comments, those are a great way to email me, education@ok811.org, and we can talk about those. And then I got another question saying, do customers report abuse of emergency locator? Yes. Short answer is yes. One of my roles and the role of OK811 is we are the ambassador, if you will, of this process, right? We have our member companies that we're doing everything we can to make sure they're getting their notifications on time, that we're protecting their underground facilities, that all those things are taking place. But that wouldn't exist, the whole process wouldn't exist if our excavators weren't taken care of as well. We want the excavators to stay safe. We want the excavators to be able to do their jobs, get paid, and then come back and do the next job, right? So in our role, because of that, we may receive a notification from a member company who said, hey, this looked a little off. Can you reach out and have a conversation with them? So we get to have that conversation, give an opportunity to explain what a non-emergency emergency request is, explain how this may look like an excessive and unreasonable update or non-working taking or non-work taking place ticket looks like, and have those conversations because we want the process to work. We do not want invoices flying back and forth between the two sides. That's not going to make this any better. It's there for leverage if it becomes abusive, but it's not there when we're just trying to keep people safe and keep underground facilities protected. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah. So someone asked a question about the excessive locates as a deterrent for people who call tickets in. Um, they went on to explain how a lot of things happen with weather in Oklahoma. Obviously, rain's going to stop jobs, and other things are out of the control of the excavator. I agree completely with that. Those things are going to happen. Um, those are all reasonable. What we're looking at is what is unreasonable. If it if there hasn't been a piece of equipment on site in months for a job that was called in 2 months ago that should have taken 10 days, and there hasn't been weather issues, and there isn't a communication back and forth from the excavator, usually an excavator, um, if they're going to stop work for a long period of time, they should let that locate request die, right? 14 days comes up, it expires, and then when they know they're going back out to the project, call back in another locate request 3 day or 3 business days prior to the work to begin, right? So the key words on the excessive tickets is whether or not it's reasonable. It is always going to be reasonable if weather's involved. It's always going to be reasonable if it's just one locate, because I started on day 12 of a 14-day ticket, right? Those things are reasonable and you can easily justify when the questions come up. It's when I've been out to the project site for 3 months, marking every 2 weeks, and I haven't seen a piece of equipment ever, right? Those are going to be the ones that are unreasonable and excessive. So please do not take this as a deterrent on either the emergency requests that are true emergencies or updating tickets. Your um, your ticket being valid is a requirement of law. So if you feel that you're being excessive and unreasonable, please go ahead and let it expire and then re-up when you go back out to the work site. But if you know that, hey, weather has been our issue and that's the reason I'm not done with this project yet, and you can explain it to the locating companies in your area, then you're fine. So please do not take it as a deterrent. Like I said, it's just leverage for when abuse does happen. Prior to this law, a little behind the scenes stuff, we have found projects that have been updated for months and months and months after the project has been closed out because they got into this auto update um, routine. And so we were able to reach out to them. We do internal audits to look at tickets, and we call and go, hey, this ticket said it was going to take you only 2 weeks. We're looking at, your third month. Is this project still going on? Is everything okay? Do you need to let it go? So we're trying to help out in making sure that communication is clear going forward. Okay, so those are all great questions. I believe I answered them all. Yeah. If there are any other questions, like I said, do not hesitate to reach out to me. The email address is easy. It's not even my name. It's just the word education at oka11.org. I have 3 more slides just to share some information on how to keep in contact with us. Just a reminder, damage prevention is collaborative. Like I said a moment ago, OKA11's role is a ambassador, if you will, to make sure that our facility owners and their locators are communicating with the excavators and keeping people safe and keeping underground facilities protected. And we try to do our best to make sure that we are tailoring our message, tailoring our product and services to both sides to make sure that the process works well. If you don't already, we have a podcast called Digging Deep that is everywhere that podcasts can be found. You can just type in OK811 Digging Deep, find it on Spotify. You can hear some really good interviews that I've had with damage prevention people, safety directors, line locator, all kinds of people to help understand the industry from a couple different perspectives. Our website also has our blog and some other information, and then of course our YouTube channel has all of our podcasts, all of our webinars, all kinds of information that you can watch on your own to stay current and up to date with us. And then finally, one more plug for my email address. If you ever have any questions, you can always email me, education@oka11.org. If you have time, you can always go to oka11.org/EO. EO is an education outreach, and there's just a quick survey. You can let me know if you have any questions or any other feedback for me as well. So we are right at 30 minutes. It's almost like I predicted that. I appreciate your patience and time spent with me today to go over just exactly how important it is to do our best to get the waste out of the system so that our locators can have more accurate time um, and have their opportunity to mark the tickets that where work is actually taking place. So again, thank you. I hope you stay safe, and I will see you here in a couple of Wednesdays. Thank you so much. Have a great day.